Welcome back to Chronicles of Power. I'm your host, Keemie, and today we have a special guest in the building.
Yeah.
We have Papi Colon in the building. Or Papi Tejada.
Papi Tejada.
Papi Tejada is in the building. So Mr. Berto Colon is here.
Hey, thank you.
I am super excited because he came at the right time after the airing of episode 2. I wish it could have been after episode 3 because I have a lot of theories of what's coming up, right? Because there's some questions that I have, especially with the trailer that dropped a little while ago. I see some clues in there of things that may be happening in future episodes to come. But Berto's here, and he's going to talk about all of the stuff that happens in the Powerverse, or for what the things that he can tell us about.
Yes.
And we'll learn a little bit about him too. So, but my first question for you is, I know that you're from Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially you are the true definition of a New Yorican. And I want to know, what was your transition like moving from Puerto Rico to what part of the...
So I first came here to Queens, Elmhurst.
Okay.
Hated it. And then
okay.
Yeah, hated it.
Shout out to everybody in Elmhurst.
Shout out to Queens. Love the boroughs, but not so much Queens. It was just rough. I think the transition was definitely not easy. Coming straight from or off the boat and then just having to adapt to life here was, for an 11-year-old, I think those are not fond memories, although good memories. You know what I mean?
Why? Why wasn't it fun?
It was just a different world for me.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Ponce. I grew up, with my brothers, going to the beach on weekends, playing basketball, different vibe, being outside. I never wore a shirt, never wore shoes, and coming here and it's the cold weather and different smells, different food, different people. Ironically enough, I got jumped by Colombians like my first 6 months in here.
At 11?
Oh yeah, it was fun. It was a good
Toughen you
good
up.
intro. Good intro.
Oh.
Yeah, because territorials. Just we are at that age. Everyone's territorial and everyone's just trying to figure out who they are, who they fit in with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm raising a 14 and a 13-year-old now, and I'm watching them trying to figure that out. So, I don't cry about it. It is what it is. It was a good intro, but just the adapting. My father stayed behind. My mom was here. I was adapting to my new stepfather at the time, and for the first time in my life at that time, we were away from my father. The three brothers. The three of us. It was just three of us. We came here. And we were away from him, and fathers are important in a young man's life.
Extremely.
And
in their daughter's life too.
And their daughters as well. But especially for a boy that age, is for me, I knew my route by watching his steps. You know what I mean? Like at that point, that's what I was doing and following his lead, right? So it was different. And because of that, and a lot of the different other dynamics in the family, stepfather, mom working, and my mom and him would have to leave the house almost at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was my job to kind of get the guys ready because I had my two younger brothers, and we'd walk, and my two younger brothers would go to PS, and I would go to IS.
Aww.
And so we were latchkey kids or whatever you want to call it. And so a lot of responsibility right away. So for all those reasons and others, it was tough. It was a tough assimilating. And then went back and then spent a couple of years back there with my brothers. Like we went back to Puerto Rico after that 1 year here. And then I made the conscious decision to then come back because at that point I was playing. I was a basketball player and I was at the time kind of discovering football.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very ready and I knew that I wanted to play football and I wanted a scholarship and I was kind of very locked in on that. And so I knew that if I came here, I'd have a better shot of going to high school.
So you came here for 1 year and then you left and went back to Puerto Rico. Did you go
Rico
back
for
to
2 years? Yeah.
Oh, you went back for 2 years.
And then once I finished the 8th grade, I was like, all right, I'm done. I had already started playing football on the island. I kind of got away from basketball, and then I started playing football. And I was like, well, you know what? I want to get a scholarship to go to college. I can probably do that better. I have a better shot of doing that if I go to high school in the States.
Wait, so you thought that yourself or did someone?
No, that was me.
All you.
Oh, me.
Well, you were destined, right?
I was locked in. Like I said, growing up, I had a lot of, challenges with my hyperactivity and kind of like my lack of attentiveness and whatnot. I think a lot of kids go through that, and I was no different. And one of the ways that you get over that is by focusing on one thing. You keep I did okay in school,
Okay.
but that became my focus. And it was good because it gives you, it's a goal, right? It's an aim. It's something to look towards. And, now looking back on it, I'm like, holy, I'm sure I had a lot of guidance from people around me, teachers, and my parents have always guided me.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
did you? So how did your dad feel about?
But my mom and dad, both of them, they've always encouraged. I mean, I've been playing organized sports since I was started off swimming probably around 2 or 3.
So you're extremely competitive.
Extremely.
Extremely.
But in a good way, because it's just structure, and it's just, like I said, an aim and goals. And I think that it's kind of what defined my life. You know what I mean? I've always needed that, and I sought that. I always wanted to have that. I'm very involved in doing things my whole life.
Okay, so you left, came back, and you're extremely competitive, and you definitely have the sports gene.
Yeah.
So whether it's gonna be swimming, basketball, football, I'm pretty sure you played other things too.
Yeah,
right?
baseball, volleyball, that. But it brought me back here because then my mom was working. My mom was working here.
Mm-hmm.
She was a nurse at the VA.
Oh. Did she leave and go back with you guys, or she always
stayed?
Mom
started her career in Puerto Rico, in San Juan, at the VA there, the Puerto Rico Commonwealth, and it's the same federal. She was in the system in Puerto Rico, but that did not guarantee anything for her, so she had to come here.
It's just the nasty way that they treat Puerto Rico. But
yeah,
again.
I mean, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah,
but
I know, but
we
still,
do benefit a lot. We do benefit a lot
in some ways.
Unlike other countries, Puerto Rico enjoys a lot of benefits from that relationship. But like every relationship, ups and downs, right?
Right.
So my mom was. My mom had already gotten into the system. She was a nurse. She studied to be a nurse. She had me at 21, and she was already a nurse. But later on, I guess that was around 88, 89, she had already started working at the VA in Puerto Rico, which kind of gave her sort of an in. But she kind of came here and winged it, and she went to
like
an
most immigrant families.
Yeah, no, my mom is no joke. Mommy's no joke. Mommy is a warrior, and I think I got a lot of who I am from her. Dad as well, but a lot of temperamentally, I'm a lot like her.
Mm-hmm.
And so once she was able to get situated here, her whole plan was to kind of bring us to. And that's how it worked out.
Yeah, that's how a lot of families. So for those of you who are from America, most immigrant families, there's always one person that stays back and one person that comes to set the family up. So like, for instance, when my grandfather migrated from Jamaica to America, he came here for about 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And like everybody else stayed back. He came, he got a job, he bought a house. And when he bought his house, that's when he brought the entire family over. And then that's when everyone came.
It's a natural process for a lot of families, like you said. And it is. It takes a trailblazer and usually a very special and very strong individual to kind of leave everyone behind and come here.
Especially to make the transition, right? Because definitely a lot of people, because you speak differently, even though you speak English, a lot of people, they don't get it. But besides the whole
different
immigrant
culture, of course, different ways of living, and the you can speak the language, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. So, on a lighter note.
Go off on tangents here about hard, how we came up so hard.
I know that's not hard. It's about grit, right?
It's about grit.
It's about grit.
Yeah.
So with all of that happening, now you are successful in sports. You get the scholarship. You make it to college. So you go to
Fordham University in the Bronx.
All right. He gets a full ride.
I think for us it was sort of, because it was a need-based scholarship. There was one AA need-based scholarship, but
okay.
To keep it simple.
So then how do we end up here? So you transition from football player and academic, and now you are in film.
Yeah. So I've always had this bug in me. I think that my mom and I discussed this a while ago. I did plays. I don't even remember the plays, but they were like, usually around Christmas you would do the whole the birth of Jesus. That would be a play that we would always do in Puerto Rico, right? And you have your shepherds and Mary and Joseph and everyone, and it's like and I started there. I started doing these little plays, and somehow, some way, because I was such a quiet kid, they would always hire me to do these things, and I kind of liked it a lot, and it was something that was kind of lingering underneath all these the sports, if you will. And when I got hurt in high school for the first time, I blew my knee out in high school. I still, thankfully, was able to get into college.
Oh, so they recruited you injured.
Yeah.
Oh, so like Kyrie.
Well, my God. So I went out. I didn't know that about Kyrie.
Yeah,
really?
He was injured when they recruited him from Duke. He only played what? I think he played 11 games, if that much, at Duke.
I mean, that
and he went out in his first year.
How
special he
is.
Yeah.
But for me, they moved me up to varsity in high school as a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to at least show sophomore and junior films. Unfortunately, I did miss senior year, and then just rehab freshman year. I redshirted at Fordham.
Mm-hmm.
And, college football for me wasn't that great of an experience, which is kind of like why that dream sort of faded,
Mm-hmm. When you got there?
When I got there, it was kind of like we struggled a lot. We sucked. We didn't have great teams, had great teammates, great people, great experience, but we didn't win a lot, And
Mm-hmm.
Fordham at that time was transitioning as well, or just had finished a couple of years of transitioning from D3 to D1 AA.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got to the school, it was already a 1 AA.
Okay.
But nonetheless, it takes time for programs to develop when they come up, And for us was no different than, something like I had 3 different coaches in college. It was tumultuous. I didn't do great. My grades were not very good in the beginning, so I was put on probation a couple of times, and so I struggled a bit. Then I re-injured my other knee.
Come
while
on.
I was redshirting.
No.
So no shortage of challenges here. But so that kind of led me into this world a little bit more. My best friend at the time was studying directing at SUNY Purchase.
Mm.
I always had the bug. I had all these electives and an extra year to pretty much expand on the one major curriculum, right? I had options to now maybe double major in something.
Okay. So what did you major in initially?
So I majored in general science, and then I was about 2 or 3 credits, or maybe I think it was something like 6 credits shorts of having a double major in like arts, like video design, or like. I know that I never took advantage of Lincoln Center, ironically enough, and they have an amazing.
Yeah, they have a campus.
They have
there.
a campus and a great program for acting and scripts.
Mm-hmm.
And developing that route if you want it, in the arts and movies and theater and whatnot. But I never did because of my attachment to Rose Hill and my curriculum with football. But I nonetheless, I took a lot of electives, and I took almost enough credits to kind of have a double major in arts and video design.
Oh, okay.
But I did a lot. I took courses in, film and script writing and video design, editing, and I sort of put enough into my curriculum in those last 2 years or last 3 semesters,
Mm-hmm.
and couple that with what my best friend was doing at SUNY Purchase. He was shooting his student films at the time. He shot his senior thesis. I was part of all those projects with him. And at that time, it just started to kind of really, the bug, I guess, really, really bit me at that time. And of course, throughout those last semesters of me and at Fordham, I did participate in NYU student films as well as my own.
Okay. Oh, so you made your own films.
I had my own little films, my own little projects. My only A in college was my film class.
Good. You took it seriously.
I took it seriously. I did 2 films. My senior film was Final Scene on Friday. I'll never forget it. It was just a 16-minute short, and all my friends were in it. It was pretty cool. I shot it in Throggs Neck in the projects. Yeah.
You had the whole.
So I was fine with it at that time. I left college. I got a job at New York Life. I was tried the insurance
Oh,
world for a
New
little
York
while.
life.
New York life.
New York life. Oh my gosh.
And I thought I was going to be an insurance agent just like my dad, but
Yeah.
that didn't pan out either.
No. So wait, did you end up? How long did you work for New York Life?
I was there 2 years. I was
Okay.
at that.
So you got
Greater
your
New York
licenses.
building.
You got
my
your Series
licenses.
6, your 63.
Well, I was on my way to studying for those, and I connected. I left there and connected with this other company for a short while, EV Direct, and they were doing the online insurance, group insurance for businesses. And so I was trying, but it just, you're gonna fail at something that you don't love. You might as well go for what you love, right? That's kind of like my little analysis at the time was like, I'm doing all these things. I don't know where I'm going. Why? And everyone tells you, everyone's always discouraging people from going into film. Like, I'm going to be an actor.
I was like, well, why do you want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember one of my friends, I won't mention his name, was like, what are you going to act? You don't got to worry about it. You already act like an asshole.
Oh, no.
Right? This is my support structure.
This is my support system. This is why you
support-
need your mother and your
This
father.
is why you need your mom and dad and brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
But it's fine because all that stuff just that's kind of like what you said before. That's what builds grit, and that's what. There's no way you go into this business with like a thin shell. You know what I mean? Like
No.
you do not. None of what we're doing here is for people that are gonna. At the sight of the rejection or the first denial, you're not gonna run away.
Do you know how many no's I get?
The no's are halfway to yeses. It's like this whole mentality comes from people like us. So I wouldn't change anything. It was part of my growth, my process. So that's fine.
So I'm gonna tell you what I know you from.
Okay.
Okay. So I know you from When They See Us, from Ava DuVernay, right? And I hated your guts.
Yeah.
I hate, and that is a testament to how great you did in the role.
Yeah.
Because the character that you played, I couldn't believe you were the same person that I was seeing on Power.
Yeah.
At all. Like, and I was like, it made me not like you initially because of, you ever seen the movie, it's with Kevin Bacon. It was, and I think Brad Pitt was in it. I think it was called Sleepers.
Sleepers, yes, yeah.
So he played a prison guard in that movie, and they went and he tortured those little boys.
Yes.
In the movie, and it made me hate him for the rest of his career. Like any movie that had Kevin Bacon in it, I couldn't watch it. Yeah. And that's how I felt about you initially.
Thank you.
Right? You changed my mind. I mean, obviously, like, when you're little and you're watching something, because When They See Us, or when you're younger and you're watching something, it's hard for you to separate that, hey, this is not really that person. But that's a testament to you and your skill as an actor, right? Like that you can't even see the person outside of the role. Because now I feel like going forward, everybody's just going to be calling you Poppy, right?
Well, maybe. I don't know.
We'll see. Because when I saw you, I was like, Poppy, Poppy, and Mamita.
Mamita. Which is something that that Mamita is something that is very, as you know, it's hard to explain. People have these different to get into that real quick. The Poppy is not Poppy like.
Yeah, no, I know. I know.
Like, I still call my father Poppy.
Poppy, right, yeah.
And, it's crazy because when we sit down and we, and LaToya and I especially speak about this stuff, and we're very close. We've gotten to, obviously working the last 3 years.
So LaToya is who plays, she
plays
Diana on the show.
Right, on the show. And because it's hard, sometimes the script and the writers have, they write that stuff in. And, if you don't have the background to understand, or the culture, right?
To understand the linguistics and why we say it and why it's like that and why it's not outlandish for someone to say.
It trends. People make words trend in different ways, and I think cultures have a way of twisting words, right? Like in this culture, and the way that is the context of that word is dad. Simply stated, it's dad. And no one ever. I know grown men. I'm in my 40s, and I still call my father dad.
Right.
Not daddy, but dad.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with Papi. And then Mamita is like not motherly, but it's like.
No, it's the little mommy.
Baby. It's my little baby.
Like, it's just translation. Like, some people say little mama, right? Or little baby. It's just saying like little mommy.
Little mommy. But anyway, To get back to When They See Us, so that was really interesting because I had actually gone in and I read for John Leguizamo's role, which is the father of the Latino.
Right.
I forget the name, and forgive me if I'm botching these things up, and then Ava was at the reading, and Ava, I think they called back. Yes, so they called me back, and then Ava was there again, and then that's when I read for the guard, and it was kind of like the first time that I have been given an offer after not getting a role. So it was, and ironically enough, it's happened to me 3 times, and Orange was the same way.
I was about to say, so Orange is the New Black was before When They See Us, right? Or were they running at the same time?
Right. Orange was the different as well. That was before When They See Us. That was sort of like my first real big platform. I mean, when I auditioned for that show, Netflix wasn't even, it was sort of like Hammer Lily, Orange is the New Black, and there was a third, House of Cards.
Right, House of Cards.
So those were the 3 main, those 3 first shows that
the biggest shows that they had on it. Yeah.
And so, that was very simple, crazy sides. It was this, I was told it was this dad who's coming back from jail, and he's now getting his wife and his daughters involved, and he gets them in trouble. He gets them both pinched because they deal for him. That was the background that was given.
For which show?
For Orange is the New Black.
Oh, doesn't that sound a little similar to something else that we know?
Yeah, it's okay. Work is work.
Work is work.
Work is work. But yeah, so that was, and that sort of was not supposed to be more than 1 or 2 episodes, and then it grew into
12,
grew into almost 12 episodes for Orange, and then the same When They See Us, I had gone in for that, and then when she made that offer of that role, and we actually, Ava and I spoke about it, because it kind of, to give you a little background, Corey out of those 5 kids was like the one kid
that wasn't there,
was not
and
even
came
there.
back to the park.
He wasn't even in the park in the original pass. They did 1 pass, and they did nothing in that first pass. But then in the second pass, they got blamed for something that they didn't do in the second pass, and he was brought into that. And Corey was, he's a smaller man. He had grown up with a hearing disability.
Right, he couldn't hear out of one ear.
And so he had a speech impediment. And you know how it is in our cultures. You're a small
They don't
black
understand.
boy.
They don't understand why he can't speak properly.
They don't understand.
Yeah,
He was never diagnosed, and he's a small black kid in the community. He got picked on his whole fucking life. I mean, I had so much stuff in my mind about what I felt, and then I had to play someone who actually tortures this man.
Which is why I couldn't stand you. But yeah.
It was a real good assignment. It was a real good assignment.
Did you know about the Central Park 5 prior to going?
And I was gonna get into that part because I came from Puerto Rico here at that time. And
when it happened?
When it happened.
When Trump took out the ad?
When not only the Trump taking out the ad, to be honest with you, Keemie, that was something that came to light later because the motherfucker went in to try to run for president.
Yeah.
People have forgotten about that. Some of us knew.
Oh, okay, because we knew.
We knew. Some of us in the communities knew.
Okay.
I remember, being around certain people when I was growing up, and they were already throwing these kids under the buses too. Yeah. And I vividly remember conversations with my mom and her trying to explain to me, this is so sad. This is the way she put it. This is so sad. And my stepfather's Italian, and so there was the whole side of the family who was like ready to lynch these fucking kids. You know what I mean? No one knew details. And whether you're Italian, black, brown, it doesn't matter. People had made up their minds about something that they didn't know details about. But I remember there was something about this shit that wasn't right. And it was a very powerful thing for me because we don't have that in Puerto Rico. We don't really have this. One of the reasons why it's so hard to make an adjustment when you come here. This whole thing with race, you have your social
caste,
caste and systems but as far as race and to have this, it was very evident here. Territorial went past territorial and it became racial here. And that was one of the first things I noticed. And so that case was big for me. And to kind of bring full circle and then have to be involved in a project that
and then pretty much work on the other side
and work
or portray the other side
of that. So you have a lot of fodder, you have a lot of material to kind of build a character, and I was very proud of that because that was a 1-episode deal, and like I said, it started out with something that didn't go my way, and to be given the opportunity to work with Ava was just and something so important was just, it's out of this world, and I enjoyed it, but it was very hard. It was very hard.
I was gonna ask you that, like, was it hard to like break, because you know his backstory, and you know how it felt at the time. Was it hard for you to act out those scenes, or is it just a job?
I mean, it's not just a job. I mean, things like that. As an actor, you really, I'm going to speak for myself because there's, people, all artists do their own interpretations of what they do and how they work. But I want to be as authentic as possible. I want to be as authentic as possible. And that entails me making references of my own emotions and my own life, how I feel about something, and attaching those to that character in order to kind of feel what that character is doing in that time and in that space, right? So it was very meaningful because I had to find the way to humanize someone who, for all intents and purposes, lacks a lot of humanity, empathy.
Right.
Those guards are not there to intimidate and destroy. They're there to keep these men and women in line, but not to torment and make them or brutalize them.
But I think they didn't get the memo, though.
No, they did. But what happens to someone when you make that transition and you do that? And that's what I honed in on. I remember having conversations with actor friends of mine after that came out, and they were like, "Dude, is there like a little sexual? Were you trying to get a vent? You think that guy?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't think so."
Yeah, do you think, like, when you interpret a role, right, and when you're practicing or when you're reading the script, do they give you all of the background and say, okay, well, this was what was happening, or are you able to make your own interpretation and then be able to act it out in the way that you think, or maybe insinuate things that may have happened that isn't clearly stated?
When you get to the big leagues, I think that most directors and script and writers and producers, they want to see what you can bring to something.
Okay. Alrighty.
I think that's the difference between, doing smaller projects when you're coming up maybe. But when you're in big leagues like this, they want to see the interpretation, because a lot of times you'll have something manifested that it wasn't even in the writer's mind. They welcome stuff like that.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, if that interpretation is not within the context of what that story is, you know that this person can make logical decisions about character and they can work.
Right.
And if you have to bring him back down, you bring him back down. And you have to adapt, because it is about the work. It is about the facts and what happened.
And telling the story.
So I found that to be a cool kind of accident, that people had ideas about that and that they didn't know. I myself thought, because we didn't really dive into that.
Okay.
We never really did the work that would portray an actual sexual encounter, if you will.
Right.
But could that have been
a possibility
for what was deeper in the subconscious of this character? Perhaps. Very, very, very possible. How could he have manifested it? I don't know. I don't think the story of Corey, none of that was ever brought up with Corey. And when I met him and when I met with Ava, that was never brought up. It was more along the lines of this real just abuse and control. Yes. Just to find someone in that environment where he could exercise his control.
His power. There we go.
and that gave him status, right? That's what gives this correctional officer a status among his peers and among the other inmates. And so I thought it was an interesting take and an interesting idea, but it's not what I intended.
Okay, so just shifting back to power and how when you play roles like that, right? So like my reaction to it is, oh my gosh, I couldn't stand you, and I thought that this was you. So does how a fan or your peers or like viewer reactions to your roles, does it affect how you act or how you portray upcoming roles?
I think you have to be careful of stuff like that. I enjoy all the reactions, the bad ones, the good ones. I think that it's only a testament to how involved people get and that they're being entertained. So, but you can't you don't let that influence or inform what you're gonna do. The story informs, the facts inform, the circumstances, the interactions, right? Like you sometimes you get something, like I said before, something happens differently on set or through rehearsal that you uncover different things. But when you're telling stories that are stories like, for example, When They See Us, they're grounded in actual events, that's a different process. When we're portraying roles like Power, there is a little bit of an opportunity for you to create your own. You know what I mean? And so, but to let fans and reactions from fans influence or inform, I don't think so. I think that that's more a question for a writer, where they want to take their story and how they want to develop it.
Especially with a show like Power,
Especially
right?
with a show like Power. I'm sure that a lot of, I think that maybe if you bring a character on, makes a huge splash, is well received, yeah, let's write this one on for another season or two. That's something that writers do. As a human being, you can possibly let that influence you. I just don't think it's a healthy practice for an artist to do that, for an actor to do that. Okay. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble. You know what I mean? It's like trying to fulfill expectations that are not even your own. You should be focused on you, and on what you're doing in that place and in that time. And
putting out the best product.
But authenticity. It's all about being authentic.
Okay, so we move from Orange is the New Black, we go to When They See Us, and then eventually we find our way to the Power World. Yeah. Okay, so I read that you auditioned for the original Power. Now, I would like to guess some of the roles that you auditioned for. So, did you audition for Ghost?
Nope.
No. Okay. Did you audition for Tommy?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, great. Now I feel a little more confident. Okay.
So it went down from Tommy's role to then there was
because I can see you as a Tommy, especially because they spoke Spanish.
Well, yeah. I mean that it's sort of like at the time. It's funny because it is what it is. Like, I think I was definitely not ready. I definitely I would love to see that tape. Somebody probably has it, but I was probably not ready. And then it gradually went to other roles in the show, eventually to Cabeza, and then there was this other role that I forget. But it didn't work out.
Did you wait? So then the only other person that I can see you possibly doing is Ruiz.
Yes, I read for Ruiz. Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only other thing that I was like, and okay, he could do Ruiz.
So Ruiz, and then there was Cabeza, and then there was Luis Antonio's role in that show, which I forget. I forget the names, but it was like 2 or 3 after Tommy and then just didn't pan out.
Okay. Well, so then were you a fan of the original Power?
I was. I watched it. Yeah, I watched it. I mean, I remember it was my agent at the time was like, "Oh my God, I don't know where that show is gonna go. I'm not, you keep auditioning."
A lot of people were like that.
Yeah, they were
until season 3 came.
Yeah, until season 3, and or till they see something go for 7 seasons. It's like, why are you? Work is work. Like, what? No longer my agent.
There we go.
So it's just a process. This is a process, and when I think that. I heard Monique on The Crew Has It the other day say something that's so true. It's like, I think.
Monique is who plays Blanca, guys.
Because she actually read for Angela's role.
Yeah.
And I heard her say something really that kind of stuck with me. I was like, when you're ready for a role, it's yours. The role that's right for you will come to you.
There you go.
It's a good way to kind of look at this stuff because There's a lot of things there's a lot of stuff that you're going to read for that you're not going to be right for many different reasons. But when it's right for you, it's right. And ironically enough, in this situation, I had gone in to read for, I think, a guard or some other role, and then went home, and it was the first real time, second time, but the first time that it was a straight to offer where I didn't have to go back.
Nice.
Yeah.
So wait.
I had gone in and read for a role, left the room. I got several phone calls after that. They love you, they love you, love you, this. And by the end of that day, they were asking me if I would consider the role of the husband of Mary J. Blige.
So did they tell you that it was going to be Mary J. Blige? Oh, my God.
Immediately. It's like, there's another role. Here's what's happening. And you're in jail, which a lot of, because I had already played 2 roles that were similar, they were like, but then they were like, and Mary J. is going to be your wife. And I was like, oh shoot. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you keep your composure in scenes with her? Because
I gotta be honest.
Especially because she's always yelling at y'all.
The dynamics are it's very tough. And for that reason, it's like, you have to get over that whole, celebrity and she is an icon. No doubt about it. I mean, I grew up with her music. There was many nights where she was the back music to many activities in college.
She was your soundtrack.
She was my soundtrack, and the woman has always been so, like her music and her passion and who she is, like her voice.
Yeah, she's omnipresent. She's always around.
So the sooner the better I got over that, because the stuff that we have to do together, basically, I have to put it in my head that we're equals. In that moment.
Okay.
And then you know what? We are. When we're acting, when we're working, we're all on the same boat. And it's very, I have to get rid of all that. I had to get rid of all that stuff really quickly, but she's perfect. She's perfect. It's great working with her. The dynamic of what we have going on has always been very tumultuous, and she does a great job. And I think that we both can dish it out and take it. It's like pretty much like a normal tumultuous relationship, but that a man and a woman can have.
But it's just that your woman is Mary J. Blige.
Oh yeah,
or Monet. Like even when I record my recaps, I have to stop myself from calling her Mary. And Mary said, but I was gonna be like, no, she's not Mary, she's Monet. But I do want to talk about your character, right? Yeah. And you did make mention that you have played other characters like this, and if we all take a deeper dive, we can see that there are other characters within the Power universe where this happens. And I just want to say, like, your character's drug dealing career trajectory is similar to Kanan, right? And from the original Power.
Yeah.
And also like Diamond from Force, in that you were incarcerated. You came home and you tried to reclaim your spot within your own organization, right? Yeah. So it's you, it's Kanan, it's Diamond, right? And you all have this same thing in common. Do you feel that your character, Lorenzo, will ever be able to shift the power pendulum from where it's at now? Because it's like Monet has most of the power, right? Back to himself?
Well, I mean, he's certainly going to try, and he's not going to ask for it. It's his to claim. The process for me for Lorenzo is that it's not about asking permission. It's apologize later if you need to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How's that been working out with Monet?
Well, it doesn't work out well, but so we're playing a little bit of game here. We're playing a game here, right? We're writers, I believe, and they're all amazing, by the way, on this role, in this world, right? They've created the dynamics of that conflict will always exist. Ultimately, the decision is made to whoever gets to go on, whoever gets to keep the control. That's a creative decision. But in the present time, or in this situational moment in the story of what we're doing, he's not going to ask for permission. He put all those people there.
Yeah, but then you left for 10 years.
Then he left, but to him it doesn't matter, because he's the one that started all of them there. And he has, in his mind, controlled it even though he was away for 10 years. They were still doing their own thing on the outside. They were creating and they were evolving. Those characters were evolving, like,
and evolving without him.
Without him. But he's not there.
Right.
And in his mind, he's influencing them, even though those characters themselves are forging their own ideas about who they are and what they're doing. They don't necessarily reveal everything back to him, right? It's what we do. It's what we all do. Perception versus reality.
Right. Episode 1.
And so, I mean, it's just so well connected, like all these little through lines and arcs, and it's all very interesting because at the end of the day, it's just a depiction of these conditions that these people have to deal with, and it's all very, I mean, you're bringing this out about Cain and Diamond, and it's very interesting.
Did you even realize that you all had the same story?
I thought about Kanan before, right? Obviously, because the story of he came out of jail as well, but like it's really much more connected than I thought, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's within the same universe. So it's well put together, and when you're an actor portraying that, even though you know the whole story, I sometimes have to be careful not to like stray away from making sure that I stay as authentic as possible creating this one character, because his reality is not he doesn't know what I know about the story. He only knows what he knows in his world.
Right.
And
so then to that end, how would you describe the power dynamic between Lorenzo and Monet now that he's out? Because before, we can say that there is a whole patriarchal system, right? Whereas we believe that Papi is the head, right? And he is going to send out all of the directions to everybody else. And because he's incarcerated, he believes that, I'm going to give the directions and they're going to follow through. But then when he gets out, he realizes that they haven't really been following through. And that especially with some of the actions that you did, like for instance, with having Cain beat up by the guards.
Yeah.
And giving Monet explicit directions of things to do, but then she ends up sleeping with Ramirez and you don't know about this.
Yeah.
So how would you now describe the character's power dynamic? Like, how is it? Who has the power now? Do you feel that Lorenzo has the power now that he's out?
Well, I mean, again, perception. He feels he does.
He does. He feels
he does.
But he has to know.
And in that dynamic, he will, Father always told me, human beings communicate for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only: to make an emotional deposit or an emotional withdrawal. There's no reason for any human being to communicate with another human being for any other reason. And so he's trying to exert what he thinks is right for him and what he knows he wants to do. How is it being received?
She doesn't care what you say.
Yeah, she doesn't. She doesn't. And so the relationship is definitely strained. The relationship is adversarial mostly. The tie, what keeps them together is, I guess, the marriage, the bond of that initial commitment, right? But in this world, what we have left in this present time in the story is 2 people that are in constant struggle with one another to gain control of the family. The only reason that we cannot kill each other is because we're husband and wife and we're parents to these kids. Because to have in this world, to have this much conflict, to have an adversarial force like that, in order for that one character to survive, you would have to eliminate that other person out of the way. And in our dynamic, we're a family. We can't do that. So we have to work through that. We have to work through those problems, which is what humanizes this relationship. And then not only that, we have 3 kids together. And speaking of kids, and then we're trying to, as a father in my own life, it's a constant struggle to try to influence these kids to do the right thing, to kind of go down the path, the right path, and it's a constant how do I influence? How do they make that withdrawal? They take from, how do I make enough of a deposit in them that they can go out and do what I'm asking them to do, what they should be doing, what's best for them, yada, yada, yada. So, we're all criminals.
To say the least.
We're all criminals. But the dynamic of the family is very normal, right? It's very honest, it's very authentic, very real.
I'm glad you said that, because
Me too.
it is very authentic. And one of the things that you mentioned, especially about having children, is something that I've realized, or that is apparent within the story, is that there's favoritism amongst the children.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that, first of all, do you think that all parents have a favorite child?
I've had the conversation with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
She says that in her family growing up, they did.
Okay.
I will be honest with you.
Uh-huh.
Not in mine.
Okay, good. That's how I feel. I don't have a favorite child.
No.
I don't have a favorite child.
There's a movie with, I'm not going to get into movies, but there is a movie with, I forget. I shouldn't get into it if I don't remember it correctly.
Okay, already.
I always imagine, like, if you had to pick, like, how would you go about doing that?
Right, which is why I want to ask, like, why does Lorenzo, I don't know if they gave you background on this, so maybe you may know, but why does Lorenzo want to groom Drew and not Cain?
I think that's a great question, Keemie. Thank you for that. So I had extensive conversations about this with Courtney.
Okay.
And you know how they say, like, when you see so much of yourself in your child,
Mm-hmm.
you also know frailties and you also know their weaknesses.
Okay.
And in this particular, to keep it short and simple, the one person with the better head is Drew. Because Cain is too much like Lorenzo in the sense that it's all force and brunt. Like, I remember do you remember Cain's coming out scene in the first season?
Yes.
Where he rolled up in the store, broke glass, shot up, and just like, he's a wild man.
He came through like a hurricane.
He came through. His name is Hurricane. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm enamored by that idea.
Okay.
I love that. Okay. I love brawn. I love strength, aggressive. I love full force ahead, bull in a china shop. I love that. But to run the business and for longevity of the business, Lorenzo does not think that. Lorenzo sees Cain surviving in that mode of high speed, brute force, constantly having to have a force against him so that he can exert himself. Mm-hmm. That's how he sees Cain.
But
Drew has not only that, but Drew also possesses a little bit more mind control. And I took it a step further where, for me, his sexual preference
mm-hmm.
creates a much more complex and highly developed, like, mental ability kind of person. And as a father, mm-hmm. looking at a son like that, who's had to survive not only that world, but also survive despite the fact that, you're kind of in the closet a little bit about this and you can't tell people, but Lorenzo knows.
So I was going to ask, so Lorenzo does know, right? He knows that.
He does know. He does know. He doesn't, I guess in typical or untypical fashion, it's not something that he's going to totally bring out to the open, but he does know. And that's his son. It doesn't matter. That's his son. To him, it really doesn't matter. Lorenzo is handling that aspect of his that portion of him is something that he keeps really guarded and close to his vest. But nonetheless, that's why Drew is the better choice. Diana needs to go to school and get out of this. Diana should go to school, get out of this situation and make the money, infiltrate the white collar world and blue collar world, whatever, the legal world. Mm-hmm. And let her develop her roots in there in his mind, right? Let her develop in that way, the female. But Drew is the one that can kind of carry the torch after Lorenzo's gone, and that's the dynamic that he has in his mind. That's kind of like the way he sees it.
So one of the character analysis that I did on last week's podcast, because I went over episodes 1 and 2, is it's about Cain, where I say, to make it short and sweet, we know Cain as the hothead, but recently his character has developed to not be that, right? And the reason why I actually know, well, why are you grooming Drew and not Cain? Or why is Lorenzo grooming Drew and not Cain? You say, because Lorenzo sees himself in Cain. But Mecca had a different approach, right? Mm-hmm. Because Mecca is coming from the outside and he's teaching Cain to be more poised, to think about his decisions, to make sure that he is able to see the game from far up ahead. So pretty much Cain has to work as though he's a drone right now, right? Mm-hmm. And to make sure he can see the entire playing field. And this way, this is why Cain is not just a hothead now. Now he has some background information and now he's using his head and he's not just going in guns blazing, shooting out the cameras. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to torture these people, but I'm going to make sure that I get the right information out of them and that I'm making the right informed decision, right? So one of the things that I liked about how they made the story progress in how he finds out that Lorenzo kills Zeke is that he says, okay, they saw the bald head with the big collar. That's number 1. They saw the busted taillight. That's 2. But then he saw your reaction to when he says, oh, he'll say anything.
Right.
And that's what, so it's the totality of the circumstance, right? It's not just one thing. It's not just 2 things, but it's all 3 combined that makes him say, okay, I know you did it. And then now that he comes to you and says, okay, I'm not the hothead anymore. Like he's pretty much telling you, you should have picked me all along or tried to groom me in this way so that don't just see yourself in me, but try to make me see things other ways. But maybe because you're so blinded by how much he is like you that you can't even direct him another way. Right?
Exactly. I think that as parents, as human beings, we tend to make that mistake. And the story is beautiful because of that, because all those dynamics are there. Like here comes someone else, an ex-lover, no less, of the wife.
Of your wife.
Of the wife, who is sort of grooming, as you put it, my child in the way that I should have probably paid attention to. And look.
But you couldn't because you weren't there.
Well, I wasn't there, and he wasn't there. He wasn't present. And also, there's the conflict, and there is the that's what we have to get over. That's what we have to get over. We have to get over. That's the conflict. That's the obstacle that we have to get over in that situation. And it's good. It's good that it's good that it was written that way, and it's very clear how hey, we try our best. A father could only do. As a father, I think he did his best, and he made up his mind. I think that you're going to see some developments, and I think you're going to see maybe Lorenzo regret some of the decisions he's made,
especially about having him beat up.
Especially about the way he went about some stuff like that. Yeah, especially about having him beat up. But maybe final. Like I think coming to a conclusion about what Cain is capable of too soon. Right? Or not giving the opportunity of Cain to develop into something else. Because it's very evident that he's hungry, he wants it. Usually you reward the person that's giving you, that's showing you the most,
Don't forget he tried to kill you.
Yeah, well, I mean, that part too. But, I think Lorenzo forgave his son in that aspect, because he didn't first of all, he didn't go through with it. What are you gonna do? Like, well, you didn't go through with it, what am I gonna kill him now? I just found out. Like, that's not the way you handle that.
Does Lorenzo know that it was Monet who put the battery in his back to do that? Does he? Because I can't remember if the character has figured that out yet.
No, I think that in this, I think that's the first. That's not. I think that because of the hot-headedness and the influence that he allowed this, Mecca to have over him, I think that let's just put it clearly, I made the choice that Lorenzo defaulted to the idea that it was a plan that this
this
adversary
guy
of mine put into, he infiltrated my family and put that idea into one of my kids. That's the idea behind how he's playing that. Honestly, like that's what he thinks. That's what he thinks. And because of that, finding out the truth was sour and it's nasty. But again, how would you retaliate? Well, I'm gonna make his life a living hell. I'm gonna probably try to make him do everyone's reacting so terribly, like fans are so upset that I'm just sending that Lorenzo is sending Cain on these on these dry runs, or like this. There's nothing for him to find, but it's just a way for him. It's just a way to get even, man. Like the guy tried to kill me, and so he's got to learn.
But now he learned the truth, and now he owns
and what a crazy,
you.
Yeah, what a crazy, like after all that, after all those terrible setups, and after all that, it's a deviant decision, right? It's a really nasty decision for Lorenzo to set his son up, because he could have gotten killed.
Yeah.
Maybe in the back of his mind he didn't think of it. If it was an accident, then great. He wants Drew to take over anyway. Who knows? Writers kind of leave all that stuff for interpretation. But for me, what a crazy situation to then have him be the one who finds out.
That finds out that it's you. Of all the people to find out that it's you.
The biggest arc in Lorenzo's situation is this terrible, terrible mistake, which he made in the heat of a moment as well, right? He just fueled with anger, fueled with jealousy, fueled with rage. Unbeknownst to him, he ended up killing one of his wife's kids.
So do you think that, I think that Cain suffers from middle child syndrome without even knowing that he was the middle child. So he's the eldest boy, right? But he's always looking for a way to appease both his dad and his mom. So he doesn't necessarily act like the oldest child, because remember earlier you say I was the oldest, so I pretty much turned into a parental figure too.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do that, even though he's more mature than Diana and Drew. But he operates as a middle child in that he's always looking for, hey, mommy, I did this.
Right.
Dad, look, I did this. I did it the best. Why aren't you giving me praise for it? Yeah. And he didn't even realize that he was the middle child until he was sitting at the dinner table with you guys, right? So, and it's so crazy how people talk about the middle child syndrome, and he was still doing it even though he doesn't really know.
It's crazy. These writers, they know what they're doing, right?
Yep, they know what they're doing.
This is really such an interesting aspect. All these little, the fabric of this story, right? All these little nooks and crannies that you find and details that you find in these people's characters are pretty amazing. Look, it's like you describe it. It's very possible. It's very possible.
So I do have a little game that we can play, because I know that you were a fan of the original Power. Mm-hmm. And you know what's going on throughout the rest of them, right? So we'll do a little character showdown, right? You ever heard of Versus?
I don't know. Well, we'll go. Yeah,
the music verses that we used to do during the pandemic. So we had Beanie Man and who did Beanie Man? Beanie Man and Bounty Killer. Then there was the Locks and Dipset. So, but whatever the case is, we're going to pick who would be victorious if we put the two characters together. Okay. So your son Cain, who plays, your son Cain versus the younger version of Kanan. Do you watch Raising Kanan?
Yeah.
Okay, so who would win in a showdown between those two? Whether it's wit or brawn, who would win?
Oh, man, that's a good one. I have to default to Cain, because, again, I think Cain's character is in this power world, he derives from Kanan, Ghost, Renzo. There's a lot of real influences in the writing, and story influences in the aspects of in the behavioral aspects of all those characters. Okay. So underlining it, and then on the surface, I think that Cain is kind of like a comes from all the evolution of all those other characters. So he should be better.
Okay. So next one, Zeke, your stepson slash nephew,
Stepson slash nephew.
stepson nephew versus Jabari Reynolds. He was the professor.
Oh God. Do you? Oh my goodness. Zeke is somebody that strikes me as a lot of untapped physical potential. I mean, he's a physical prowess. I mean, I think Zeke wins that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Yeah. Tamika, who is the attorney, versus Blanca.
Oh, Blanca.
Blanca? Okay.
Yeah.
Diana versus Effie.
Ooh.
This is your daughter now.
Oh, my God. Oh, But it's a good one because those two are they're fierce. They're both so fierce.
Mm-hmm.
God, I default on that one. I don't think I could have I think those two will knock each other out. Okay. Like Rocky and Apollo, right? Like at the same time.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All righty. I'll give you an easier one then. Brayden versus Trace. So Trace. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's a better one for you. Jukebox, the younger version of Jukebox, versus Effie.
Holy.
That's a good one, right? I think so myself.
You're definitely on top of your Power Universe game. You need to develop the stuff and put it in a card. Put it in a card table game or card game or something.
Okay, we're gonna cut that part out, guys.
Yeah. Don't give them the secrets. I think Effie takes that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Monet versus Tasha.
Monet.
Okay. Lobos versus Noma.
Lobos.
He was crazy. He's a different level of crazy. But we don't know a lot about Noma yet. So I don't know if he knows more about Noma than we do. But from what I know now, I don't know. The machete was a lot.
The machete is crazy.
The machete is crazy.
The cutting of the hands is
30 seconds in.
30 seconds in the show.
Yeah, that was a lot.
But Lobos, again, I mean, based on information alone, Lobos was.
He was crazy.
He was crazy.
Okay,
crazy. And then Lobos in that one.
All right, so I have two more for you. So Renzo versus Ghost.
There are theories floating out in the world that these two met each other in jail.
Yeah, I've heard that one, but it doesn't.
I would love to. I let that float in my head, and I think it's something that's good. It's good. It's good material.
I think it is good material, but I don't know if we're gonna see it happen.
Yeah.
But who wins?
God, I mean, Ghost is just such a. Ghost has an edge on Renzo.
Okay. Okay. So then Renzo versus Kanan. Adult Kanan. Adult Kanan who made it out of a burning building with locked doors. Come on, Power.
Yeah, come on, Power.
Come on, Power.
Oh, man. Well, I have to say that one's probably one of those. He was real cold. I think Renzo has softened up a bit.
Yeah, especially with all these kids.
I think Renzo softened up with the birth of Diana. So I would give that one to Cain because Kanan is just cold blooded. I mean, he killed his son.
Yeah, and Renzo could never do that. Son. Yeah, but he killed his son because of the influence that he believed that Ghost had on his son.
Yeah, well, he felt betrayed, right?
Yeah, he felt betrayed.
I'm just that alone. Yeah, Kanan will sweep the floor with Renzo.
Okay,
he's mean.
He is very mean.
Oh.
We could probably thank his mother for that. But
yes.
But after your infamous dinner table scene, right? This is a question that I ask all of the Power people who come by, whether they're in Power, BMF, if they're just on Stars, right? And especially after the scene that you guys had with Zeke and the birth certificate and Diana. Before I ask this question, I did have a question about Diana. How do you feel about Diana feeling like she's on her own in college right now, because she made a reference saying that, okay, they're paying for me to go, but I don't have money for books. I'm pretty much here flying solo.
I think it's very accurate portrayal of what a smart young person needs to do at that point in their lives. I remember in my own personal life, that's kind of like how I felt.
Me too.
And there's a need to kind of separate ourselves, right? Like, yes, we're grateful, and if you have a circumstance where your parents were able to take care of your college. In my case, I had a scholarship, but I still needed a little, some money, right? So I was still getting, I was still getting a lot of support from mom and dad. But in my mind, I was forging my own path, and I like that Diana is kind of like on her own path and making its decisions, and that she wants to kind of separate herself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, the first scene of her separating herself is when she dropped the bomb at the dinner table. And my question to you is, if you had to pick 3 characters or 3 people from the Powerverse, it doesn't have to be just from Ghosts or just from the original iteration of Power, but anyone within the Powerverse, if you could have 3 people to have dinner with, who would you choose and why?
Oh, okay. So, Tommy Flanagan's character on Force.
That is a first. Okay. Him. Why?
Fierce.
Wait, are you meeting with him as Lorenzo, or are you meeting with him as Berto Colon? Okay.
As Berto Colon, I think there's so many people it would not be fair for me to sit here and pick, because I would love to have dinner with so many. These actors in real life are all very, very gifted, and I've learned a lot from many. Not just, in particular, Woody, Latoya, and Lavelle, so much, right? But and even Mary. But I think character wise, and in the world, and who these characters are, I think Tommy's adversary in Force, Tommy Flanagan's character, which I forget the name, I'm sorry.
Victor.
Yes. It's dark. I love that. I love the portrayal. It would have been really, really cool to have Mecca.
Oh, really?
Yes.
At the dinner table?
Yes.
Wait, so no.
That would have been interesting.
I would have flipped the whole table over. I don't even see the dinner coming out.
Well,
at this
here's
point.
the thing. It's before finding out that he was an ex-lover.
Okay.
Because I think one of the really cool things, the one time Mecca and Renzo were sharing the screen, and then of course working with Daniel, was that we both sort of felt like there was a symbiotic, an energy between these guys.
Clearly, she has a type.
Clearly,
right?
But there was something, there was like that. There was mutual respect.
Okay.
So I think prior to the news of him finding out
that was the daddy,
that would have been a good person to have at the dinner table. And
one more.
Yeah. And I mean, probably.
Who's gonna keep the conversation going?
Who's gonna keep the conversation going is right. Let's see. Well, I think Ghost or Tasha would have been. I think Tasha would have been an interesting person at the dinner table.
At the dinner table.
Yeah.
Why?
All very different.
Yes.
Just because you would, first of all, you would need sort of like to soften up the air, and they're all methodical in their own little way, and they're all survivors in their own little way. You know what I mean? Obviously, it was between her. In my mind, it was between her and Ghost, but Tasha would be interesting because she would bring something different. She's cunning as well, and I remember through his, those last 3 seasons of Power, and even in the first season of Ghost, like, she was just very cunning, very, very strong, very strong character to kind of be around.
Okay. So on that note, I want to say thank you so much for coming.
Yeah,
It has been a blast talking to you. I learned so much.
Thank you. Yes, it's been great to be here. Yeah.
But there is, I do want to ask you, do you have anything coming out that we should be keeping an eye out for in the future?
Yeah. So right now, currently, I've been very lucky. I've been cast as I've been casting a role in the new Penguin series on HBO Max.
Consistent money coming in.
Yes, keeping it going.
Keeping it going.
And keeping options open. I'm looking to produce and I'm looking to two separate other projects. One is an animated project and the other one is a scripted project that I'm looking to produce. We're in the works for that. So yeah, there's things on the plate, but very excited to be part of this DC world. Finally, I think it's an actor's dream.
Oh my goodness!
To have an opportunity to play in the DC or the Marvel world in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, look at you going from universe. First, you go from the drug dealer universe to the DC universe.
Yeah, very lucky, very lucky. And it's great. I think that this last Batman movie was very different for many reasons for me.
Very dark.
There was a sad darkness, but also a tragic kind of like feel to this character.
But Batman's story was always tragic.
Well, I think that through the years, if I'm not trying to be a critic, I mean, I think all the Batmans, and of course Christian Bale's Batman is my favorite, but I think all the Batmans bring something different to the table. And there was something more tragic about this one. Mm-hmm. He's not this. It just didn't come off like this affluent, rich guy who's got all the answers. You know what I mean? Who's just out there fighting crime. There was some real tragedy and there was some real darkness about the way that he played this one. And so for that reason, and the role, and then the spinoffs, rightfully so. Like Colin's Penguin on that movie is. First of all, a lot of people didn't even know
it was him.
Right? I mean, he isn't a full... And then now to be working with that guy, it's like, holy. And what a force, right? And Chris Similarity, who's playing Sophia, was one of the main characters as well. I play a close confidant of the Falcone family. That's what my role is. And so, Sophia's character is my character's... person who he has to kind of guard and protect.
Okay.
So she's sort of a father. It's almost like a father-daughter type of situation.
Okay.
Almost.
Almost.
So very interesting. Very, very, very interesting.
So we'll be looking out for that on HBO Max.
HBO Max
coming soon. Our Papi Tejada is going to the DC universe.
Yes.
Something tells me that doesn't bode well for Lorenzo.
Well, it doesn't mean anything. I will say it doesn't mean anything. Seasons develop and.
So why does Cain have on your chain?
Well, when? Oh, when? When was that? When did you see that?
Cain has on your chain in the trailer. I was going to bring this up earlier, but he has
really good. See, if that's in the trailer, then it's already out there. Well,
yes, it's already out there.
I think somehow, some way, the chain might have fallen off.
Oh.
And Cain might have gotten control of it somehow.
Yeah, I have a theory. I know you can't answer, and
What's your theory? I'm interested in your theory.
And I don't want you to answer.
Well, the trailer's already out.
The trailer's already out. So here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
We open up the season with Zeke's memorial, right? And they tell us that it's 3 months after the events of last season. Mm-hmm. So if it's 3 months later and they're having a memorial, they've already had a funeral. But we also see a coffin in the trailer. So who's in the coffin? It has to be someone that they're really close to because Mary is dressed in black, or Mary J. Blige, who plays Monet, is dressed in black. We see Drew. We see all of them dressed in black. But then I also noticed that your chain was on Cain. So I was like, is Papi in the coffin?
Maybe he's in jail again. I don't know.
He ain't in jail again. And on that note, guys,
on that note,
thank you for watching and listening.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I mean, look, the stories are out there. The trailers are what they are. I think they're designed to mislead and to make people think certain things. So just remember that.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Right.
I'll keep watching. Okay, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No
appreciate
problem.
you.